Hey guys, this is RTIK. Today, together with Maxy, we're gonna give you a track breakdown of Hiding in the Stars, which is out on David Hohme's label, Where the Heart Is. The track started off last year when we started sharing some ideas back and forth, so many loops, melodies, just rough drafts, and ended up with so many tracks together. This is the first one that is out, so I'm gonna leave the word to Max first, and then we're gonna dive deeper into the arrangement and all the other parts of the track. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Maxy, and I'm going to be talking about my collaboration with RTIK. So the song, it kind of focuses around this synth part that I did on my Prophet Rev 2, and it sounds like this. It's a really noisy patch that I just accidentally made. I don't even know how I did it really, but I know that the LFO was sort of modulating the noise gate, and then and it's very staccato-y, so I would just play a note or two and hold them down, and then I would kind of manually modulate the sustain, so every few notes it would open up, so it'd be like very staccato-y, like tick tick tick, and then it would open up, as you can hear here. Like on the da-da, this part. So just kind of open it up whenever I wanted, I guess. Notes that I thought sounded good. By itself, it sounds really bland, actually. I'll take all these plugins off, so it sounds very different. This is what it sounds like just by itself. Really noisy. I use this Pro Q to kind of roll off a lot of the high end. It made it sound a bit more telephonic. And I added some Valhalla reverb, some Echo Boy, Filter Freak for some reason. I don't think it's really doing anything. I think it's pulsing on quarter notes, and then I have a spring reverb at the very end of it that kind of makes it sound. I wanted it to sound sort of like you're playing it through an old Fender amp or something. So it's an odd synth line. It's really thick, and but everything else kind of wraps around it in a nice way.
So as you saw, Maxy came up with the main synth melody that you hear throughout the track. I think it's kind of funny. We want to show you how the track actually sounded right at the beginning when we started working on it. I sent him some working loops, and this is how it started. So as you can hear, the main structure of the track is actually there already. We just developed it into a full arrangement. The rhythm, the chords, and the secondary melody were already there. So the main chords were actually done with Contact. So the Maverick, which is a very soft piano that I use a lot. And then I like to start off with this first layer just to put the ideas down, write the actual chords, the melodies, and then develop the sound design later on. So the first layer actually just stayed like that, which you can hear. So I bounced it off. And then to make it a little bit more interesting, I just added some layers. A higher layer, which I call Winterfeld, which gives it, a little bit more harmonic content as I change some of the notes. in the breakdown I actually added some more notes just to make it a little bit more interesting, which acts as like a counter melody. And that's actually a sweep from Maxy, which is pretty cool. And then if we actually go down, just take a look at the leads. I did a session, to start off the track with the Crave, which is basically a Mother 32, just a lot cheaper. But if you process it the right way, in my opinion, you can really hear a difference in a track. So these are the 2 layers. Let me see. They're ready with some effects. So some, basic delay and some reverb and further delay. I use a lot the replica as a big reverb. I really love the character and the sound. So this is how the first layer sounds like. So the way I do this is usually I come up with an arpeggio or a melody in MIDI, then I send it to the synth, and then I start playing, with all the knobs and change the attack, the cutoff, and envelopes, everything. So just to create, constant variation throughout the sound. So this was the first layer, and then I actually made another one, which is very different with the attack. And I actually made the cutoff change with an LFO on the synth. So it actually comes back and forth. You hear it just constantly involved. So if we actually go into the final parts of the arrangement, it was actually in the breakdown where you can hear it fully. There's a lot of processing on these leads. I started off with some transient shaping, just make it a little bit more sharp on the attack, and just cut off the sustain, just because it had really long tails. You can hear it's almost like a pluck sound. Let's go through some more of the processing. Went through the capitator for saturation, just to make it a little bit more bright, more present. Then this basic EQ, cutting off the low end, OTT to make it even brighter. I use this a lot actually for the leads, just because it gives a little nice tone. If you overdo it though, you kind of lose the body of a sound, so just be careful with it. And then some more saturation. This is actually a great plugin. It just gives a really nice tone, as would be like with an analog console. And then further EQ, Soothe, which is great. I use it a lot. It's basically a smart EQ to take out all the harsh frequencies, the resonating ones. It just does it automatically, which saves a lot of time. You could do it with an actual EQ, just with every frequency, just finding the ones, soloing them. But this saves so much time. As well as Skullfoss, great plugin. Another smart EQ basically, which reads the signal coming in, and with just a few knobs, you can tell it whether to tame the sound or recover it, depending on the frequencies, and it just gives a really nice tone. So if you take it out, you can hear it makes a big difference. Then just automating an effect here that I did as a transition. So I use RC20 a lot, and apart from giving a lo-fi sound to a lot of the elements, which is what it's mostly used for, I use it as a creative transition. As you can see, basically you create an EQ band, and as you turn up the magnitude, the effect comes in. So in this case, it just makes it more lo-fi, cuts off a lot of the frequencies, and makes it just fade away as well with the space, which is a reverb. So another important thing here is actually the vocal chops, which is pretty simple, but I think they work really well. Just a vocal chant that I found. Just very simple, some reverb, and then some pretty cool samples that Maxy found. This kids just playing, which acts as like a build-up. And then one of my favorite parts of this track is actually this sample right here. It's just increases in volume. So this is actually pretty hidden in the track. So if you hear it in the context, I'm gonna unsolo it and let you hear how everything sounds together. So right after the transition, it slowly comes in. So the story about this sample is pretty funny, because I was working on this track and then just scrolling through Instagram, and I found my colleague was in Zanzibar, and she made this video. She's a tour leader and just works with travel agencies and just brings groups all around the world. Let me find the video here. So this is the video that I saw on Instagram. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it just sounded so musical, and had a nice rhythm and everything. And I just asked her, can I try and use this? I think it's going to work in one of my tracks. And she said, yeah, of course. So thank you, Martina, for the great sample. And I just cut it up. Just put all the transition points in the right. Just to make it, fit with the tempo, and this is how it sounded in the end. So I think this is my favorite sample of the track, just because it has a pretty cool story. This is another interesting detail, which it was initially a percussion loop. But if I just turn off the effects, it sounds like this. No, pretty basic. Nothing exciting, but with Ram or Rom, I don't know how you spell it, there's a preset which is synth layer. So basically, by moving the pre-delay, it just gives you some harmonic content, which if you find the right point, to hear, there are the two layers with two different pre-delays, and it just gives a nice tone, and with some ears, you can make them fit to the track. So it actually becomes like a synth, and initially it was a percussion. So,
next, I'm going to talk about the sort of drum elements that I added. RTIK did pretty much all the mixing and a lot of the sort of fine details of the song, so I'll let him kind of deep dive into the meat of it. But I'll just show you some of these drum elements that I added here. Starting with this sort of reverse sweep sound that kind of signifies transition into like heavier parts. It just kind of wavers and swirls around. It's just taken from a piano chord and reversed. I used Pan Man and automated distortion and Pan Man as well. So it kind of just, and I did that with the white noise as well. So it sounds like this. And then I kind of wanted it to have a lot of classic 909 sounds as the track progressed. So there's a lot of just classic like 909 claps and hats and rides. And there's some Foley in there too. I'll just play the drums by themselves here at the end. Had Echo Boy on the side stick in a rhythmic mode. And then towards the end, I wanted it to be like even more syncopated and driving, so I have this ride that's very syncopated sounding. Da, 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 da. So with the click, you can tell how syncopated it is. And that kind of carries out to the end of the song. Here, I'll just play a little bit with everything in it. Prophet's still just kind of doing its thing, being weird. Yeah, so that's kind of the main things that I added to this. I'll let RTIK deep dive and kind of take you through the ins and outs and some of the nuances of the rest of the track. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening.
So now we can go through some of the drums. I wanted to show you all the little fine details, ear candy, some Foley stuff that I worked on. But as you can hear, there's a lot going on all throughout the track with the percussion, the hi-hats. We can start with the kick. So the kick is actually three parts, which is very interesting. You know, there's a main part here. I'm gonna go through the main chorus here. So this what gives the main rhythm. You know, I play with some of the velocity as well, just not make every hit the same. Then right at the end, when I was mixing, I actually added a top kick just to make it punch a little bit more. So this is actually a layer from an older track of mine, Dissolve. I just really liked how it just punches through. And then a detail that you may not hear is that, oh, you hear some of the bells. I don't know if you heard them. Now, it was an actual layer of just vinyl, you know, crackle. Let me turn this on so you can hear it. It's very subtle, but you know, just basically I just added a random MIDI plugin. So basically every time the MIDI hits, it just picks a different part of the sample. So it's always changing. So after the processing, this is how it sounded. Very, very subtle, but you know, with the whole kick group, it just sounds really good. It just adds a layer of, you know, organic and just almost like I was sampled from a record. Then if we go to the hat section, actually let's go through the claps first. Claps, there's a lot of layers here. Let me go here in the final part. I just wanted to make the clap just coming from every different side of the room. So there's a main layer. Then I added the 909 layer from Maxy. And then this is basically the layer that just stays in the middle of the mix. And then I just added some other layers on the right and on the left. So you can hear the claps just coming from everywhere. It just fills up the mix. And once in a while, I just have these huge claps with, big reverb coming in. One is a little bit higher right at the beginning of the bar. And then every once in a while, there's just one with a lot of reverb. So it creates a really nice syncopation with the kick. It's just not a straight rhythm, and it just keeps changing. Together with the synth, it gives a really nice effect. And then just to make this even more crazy and just filled with layers and sounds coming from everywhere, there's just a few hats coming in. Okay. There's a shaker that was made with the vinyl sample that I cut and just made it into a shaker, and then just a bunch of just layer different sounds, all pan in different ways. And this is actually the last part of the track, which basically all the elements come in. Also the percussions down here. These are a bunch of Foley samples that I just put in there manually, just made them fit to the rhythm. Together with the kick and the claps. Just great syncopation everywhere. Another part is the bass, which is pretty simple. It just follows kind of the chords. There's basically just two notes, up and down, and the same goes with the bass. So the sidechain that I do it with the LFO tool, and just use a MIDI trig up here, and I just send it to every channel where I need it, so I have more control over the sidechain for each element. I don't want the sidechain to ever sound too too fake, too fixed, always the same, just pumping the same way. So the elements where I want them to keep a little bit more natural, I just step down on the amount of volume reduction at the beginning. On the bass, it's usually where that's the most extreme, just because I want to make the kick punch through and not have any frequencies clashing, especially in the low end. But on a lot of other elements, even sometimes percussions, I don't want to overdo it. As you can see here, there's not a lot of volume duck, as well as in the keys. They're all pretty different, just do it by ear. I don't want to overdo it. So with this method here, I just have a lot more control over all the groups and all the layers that are in the track. Just to keep finishing the bass, there's two layers. One is just the low end, which is just basic sine wave. Can't remember with which DST I do it. It's usually with Serum or Monarch as well. Has great low end. And then a higher layer, just to make it pop out in the mix, even on smaller speakers. This was a sample that I found, and just cut off the low end so it doesn't clash with the big sub. And then I actually added some reverb, which a lot of people would tell me I'm crazy. I never put reverb on the low end, but since this is just a higher layer. It just sounded really nice just to have a little bit of a tail at the end of the bass. The only last part was some of the atmospheres. Most of them came from Maxy, just resampled piano that he did. So this is one of the layers, and he did a secondary one over here, which they're very subtle. They're always in the back of the mix, but they're pretty cool. And then one of the main atmospheric elements, it was the one that came from the beginning. I usually like to start off every track with some kind of you know, pad or some just basic atmospheric element which has some kind of melodic element. Maybe sometimes it's just one note, but it just gives me a bed to work on, you know, melodies on top, and just come up with the main mood and atmosphere of the track. So this was the original sample here. Just random sample that I found somewhere. And then I just looped one of the sessions of the loop and just pitch it down 3 semitones, make it fit with the rhythm of the track, and just added some reverb as well. And this you hear throughout the track. Just repeating all throughout, but you know, it just gave the track, you know, the foundation to build everything else on top. So I think this was pretty much all the interesting things to talk about. You know, thank you for watching. I hope this was you know, interesting. If you don't produce, and if you produce, I hope maybe you found some cool tricks in here that you're gonna use as well. The track is out, go listen to it, let us know what you think. If you have any more questions about, you know, any of the processes, any questions about mixing, production, just, you know, drop them in the comments, send us a message. We'd be more than happy to respond. So thank you, and you know, hopefully we'll have some more tracks coming up next year. Peace.